For it. Shall we go for it? We shall go for it. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I first and foremost need to just apologize for the somewhat miniature drought in video content. I have done 20 pages worth of research essays and I have one smaller fun movie essay that I have to complete. I'm coming into my finals. It's been a lot, but now that I've done the two big ones, I feel like I can actually take a breath and enjoy this day to make videos. So today, you might have guessed it by the title, but I'm going to be reacting to Final Fantasy XIV's Shadowbringers trailer because I want to. And I'm someone who's always had a very interesting relationship with Final Fantasy XIV. I've always wanted to really get into it, but I feel like there's just been something holding me back, aside from the monetary pledge from the subscription. But now that it's actually free to play, I've tried to get into it. There's something missing, and I'm trying my hardest. But I hope by watching the Shadowbringers trailer, I get to review it a little bit, maybe find some newfound inspiration to play it, or give a review. So I'm gonna watch the trailer, react to it, and just give my reaction to how it's different from World of Warcraft or Guild Wars 2 trailers, and what I like and what I dislike about it. So, with that being said, let's jump into the trailer. Okay, so I have the Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers trailer up on my left, and I'll probably have an insert of the screen. So, let's just jump right in. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, let's go. May contain content inappropriate for children. The video game, what do you expect? Lots of destruction, vocal music, some blue stuff, and a samurai sword. Probably a recall to Stormblood.
How many years have come and gone since that
Voice
day?
acting, narration, important. This guy always looks really chunky, like a good final boss, and I love that eye.
How many years have I waited for this moment?
This moment. British. English.
For the one that stood alone against the storm.
The graphical fidelity of the cinematics is really strong. Ooh. Oh, and the crescent moon. I've seen this before, but I didn't really notice like the small detail of the crescent moon. Nice, because like samurai abilities, you know.
The warrior of light.
I must say, I absolutely love Shadowbringers theme song, I guess I could say. Like this dark, heavily processed audio. We're getting some flashbacks, probably to Realm Reborn, Heavensward, Stormblood, I'm guessing. The one thing I will say also, we have this rat goblin thing. It's kind of cute. It would be a little bit cuter if it didn't have its like ferocious teeth. At the end. I'm guessing this is I'm not sure exactly what this is. I think that's the one thing I'm sad about is I'm at a deficit when it comes to understanding the lore. Ooh. The particle effects, swapping to a different class. I like how they actively like incorporate the gameplay mechanics within the cinematics. We're going back to some flaming. I think this is, I think I recognize this place. Woodland areas. I play a Lalafell, White Mage, so far. Astrologian.
What sayest thou, Master Matoya?
Master Matoya. Black Mage? Probably a Black Mage. I mean, staff, so.
We may accept this fate or defy it, but we cannot deny it.
philosophical, poetic.
Deny. I am not wont to run from my troubles.
Break that axe. I gotta say, great action. The music is carrying the tone of it, the animation, the graphics, the shattering of the spear, the Dark Knight, into a monk, pugilist. So there's a lot of action going on. And one thing I was gonna say,
Until our friend returns,
I keep getting interrupted.
I will hold
Hold that line. I think this is the capital city, or one of the new areas in Stormblood that came with Stormblood. I mean, not Stormblood. Shadowbringers. Shadowbringers has been out for quite a while, so I'm a little late on this train, but I still want to react to it because it's pretty good. Gunbreaker. We'll get a little bit of a Gunbreaker cameo, and this is stone sculpture.
This town certainly has changed, and not at all for the better.
It's always fun just to see the animation, especially the spell effects and Gunbreaker. Gunbreaker, I think my favorite tank is probably Dark Knight, but Gunbreaker is probably my second. I'm not exactly sure.
I promise you.
Miniphilia. I'm not exactly sure how great they are in terms of the meta, but it's still interesting nonetheless. The one thing about the cinematics, as I can finally say, is that they're quite lengthy. We get a cameo for the dancer. I do like that in the cinematics. They're lengthy, they have a lot of story, so long as you understand the lore. Of course, like if you're like me, who's pretty like bare bones, you might not get all the references, but you get a lot of cameos from what's going to be in the expansion, the areas, story, and it's quite long. So it's like it's truly a visual journey that you can just rewatch multiple times. It's not like a 2-minute or 1-minute trailer where you get most of it in its like length, but because it's so long, you can really go back and nitpick everything. I do love the architecture of the crystals, and they're really just beautiful. He's gone into samurai.
If history must be unwritten, let it
And then,
be unwritten.
since I have seen the spoilers, he's gonna go into Dark Knight mode. Oh, the spear thing that I was referencing. It's not a Dark Knight. A Dragoon. That's what it was with the spear shattering. It was a Dragoon. Oh, my earbuds. The music is one of the vital elements to this cinematic, in my opinion. It's the thing that draws me the most to these cinematics. Oh, Dark Knight. I want to play Dark Knight so bad.
The warrior of darkness.
Oh, that pose. Oh, smexy. Delicious. Yummy. Shadowbringers. Truly a great, a long trailer, a great trailer. This came out July 2nd, 2019. So it's been a year that it's been out. And I know there was a recent patch trailer, but I'm not going to review that because I haven't played. I don't know the story. I don't know what's happening. But for the Shadowbringers trailer, I'm going to talk about the trailer as an art piece. Not necessarily in terms of lore, because I'm not completely familiar with the lore of Final Fantasy XIV or what's happening in Shadowbringers. But I have to say, Final Fantasy XIV brings the quality in terms of cinematics. I think the one difference, and one of the major differences from other video game trailers that I've noticed, is the attention to the music. And I think this also goes for Final Fantasy XIV's in-game raiding scenarios. Final Fantasy XIV is one of the few games where, MMOs I should say, where they actively play vocal music with lyrics. And it's like an actual song. And at first, I didn't know how I really felt about it. I was kind of like, nah, I prefer much more instrumentals with raid bosses. However, I've grown to kind of like it and kind of appreciate it as like Final Fantasy XIV's niche. And with the vocalization being in-game, they've definitely brought that vocalization into the trailers. And especially with the Shadowbringers theme, that heavily processed male vocal lyrics, it's just like that gritty. I love it. I think that's one of the major things that gave me a lot of happiness, I should say, in the trailer. I've gone back and I've listened to that track multiple times just because it's so epic. It's that grungy dark that I really enjoy. The visuals in terms of cinematics definitely on the high. It's definitely fantastic. And I read something on the internet that did kind of pique my interest. With World of Warcraft, their cinematic and when they're portraying characters, they're often vastly different from what they look like in the actual World of Warcraft engine. Because the World of Warcraft engine is so much more cartoonish, it doesn't really fit the World of Warcraft art style in terms of the cinematics. The cinematics for World of Warcraft is quite realistic, photorealistic, really high fidelity, but the in-game engine doesn't really pair up with that. In the case of Final Fantasy XIV, the cinematic closely resembles a lot of the art style and modeling that you see in the game itself. And that's also one thing Guild Wars 2 does pretty effectively. Guild Wars 2 has a stylized graphics in the in-game engine, and they also carry that through with their cinematics that they've done in the past. So in terms of the visuals, Final Fantasy XIV is really kind of true to its in-game engine, which is really great to see. Granted, it's not an exact replica of like an in-game engine trailer, because of course, like the fire effects, the lighting is much higher quality in cinematics rather than in the in-game engine. In terms of the story, I don't know a lot of the story. However, it does set the tone. I, of course, have not played Shadowbringers, but it's definitely set a tone. I don't know if it's matched it in terms of the expansion story, but I do get this tone of like shadowy, a lot of destruction, a lot of dark conflicts, maybe some corruption, pretty standard narrative beats, but in a Final Fantasy setting. I really do love this, like, it's got the contrast. That's why I'm like kind of like seeing corruption, bourgeoisie, and the proletariat type stuff because of the opulent castle and then the seemingly slums, shanty towns. And then we got some of these boss fights, this Gunbreaker. That's another thing is I love that they are actively showing like the new classes and jobs. They're not called classes; they're called jobs. But the new jobs that you can play in the expansions. And I hope that this continues with more Shadowbringers, not Shadowbringers, but Final Fantasy XIV expansions. I wish more games did that in terms of MMOs, where they actively gave the new professions, the new classes, or the new jobs, kind of a spotlight in the trailer to kind of like, to kind of like show the expansion's goods, you know, show the goodies, show the goodies. But as a whole, I really enjoyed Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers trailer. Oh, the dancer. And I'm kind of happy to see that the dancer, from what I've heard, has become like a ranged damage buffer in a sense. But that's for the actual Final Fantasy XIV content. But I love the trailers. This has kind of like pushed me to kind of want to play Final Fantasy XIV just a little bit more. At least try to get to the free cap of Heaven's Ward to just maybe do a little review. But thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like the video if you liked it. Comment down below your thoughts about Final Fantasy XIV cinematics or the Shadowbringers cinematic in specific. I do love the narration. It's got a lot of setting the tone, setting the story, calling to characters that might be in the expansion. But if you guys would like to help support me on Patreon, I'd very much appreciate that. You get early access to all my videos. You can request a video that I can do. And if you want to get in touch with me, we can arrange for some gameplay time for a specific game. And yeah, if you don't want to go on Patreon, you can just subscribe down below for more videos. I'm now finally getting back into the swing of things. And yeah, thank you guys so much. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everyone.